Peace, wealth, and prosperity are not just outcomes we chase. They are states we can invite into our lives through intentional practices. Today, I want to share with you 10 timeless principles that, when applied, will align your spirit, sharpen your focus, and position you for lasting fulfillment. Peace is not something that can be found outside of us. It is a reality that is cultivated from within. And the first timeless practice that allows peace, wealth, and prosperity to flow into our lives is the ability to cultivate inner stillness. In a world that is constantly noisy, where every moment of silence is interrupted by notifications, opinions, and the demands of others, the discipline of creating stillness within yourself becomes a sacred and transformative act. Inner stillness is not the absence of movement in your environment, but rather the ability to anchor your heart and mind in a state that is unshaken by external turbulence. It is a practice that allows you to separate who you truly are from the chaos around you. And in doing so, it positions you to make decisions from clarity rather than confusion, from wisdom rather than impulse. Cultivating inner stillness begins with recognizing that your mind is not always your master. It is a tool meant to serve you. And without guidance, it will wander endlessly into worry, distraction, and fear. The human mind is constantly racing, seeking answers, anticipating problems, and replaying scenarios that have long passed. When you learn to quiet that storm within, you tap into a reservoir of peace that becomes unshakable. No matter what storms rage outside, this stillness does not come automatically. It is cultivated through intentional practice, through choosing to pause, breathe, and connect to the deeper part of yourself that is not defined by circumstances. When you give yourself permission to enter this place of quiet, you open the door for divine wisdom, creativity, and solutions to flow to you with ease. Inner stillness is also the soil where wealth and prosperity can grow. When your mind is agitated, restless, or constantly comparing itself to others, you are unable to recognize opportunities or steward resources with discernment. Anxiety clouds judgment, and restlessness often leads to unwise decisions made out of fear or impatience. But when you learn to operate from stillness, your decisions are not rushed. They are grounded, intentional, and aligned with long-term vision. This allows wealth to not just enter your life, but to be sustained and multiplied because you are able to act from wisdom rather than impulse. Prosperity, in its truest sense, is not merely financial. It is the abundance of health, joy, meaningful relationships, and purpose. Stillness gives you the clarity to see what truly matters and the strength to prioritize it without being swayed by fleeting distractions. There is also a spiritual depth to cultivating inner stillness. Many people spend their lives seeking answers from every external source: books, mentors, trends, and experts. Yet the deepest guidance often comes in the moments of quiet, when you are able to listen to the voice within. Whether you call it intuition, divine guidance, or the whisper of your spirit, this inner voice is most clearly heard when the noise of the world is silenced. If you are constantly moving, constantly talking, constantly consuming information, you miss the subtle wisdom that can only be accessed in stillness. Some of the most successful and fulfilled individuals have shared that their greatest breakthroughs came not from striving harder, but from moments of retreat, reflection, and quiet waiting. Stillness also allows healing to take place. The pace of modern life often forces people to suppress pain, ignore their emotions, and keep moving as if nothing is wrong. But unhealed wounds manifest as stress, anger, and even sickness. When you practice inner stillness, you create the space to acknowledge what you feel, to process your emotions, and to release what no longer serves you. This healing creates space for peace to take root, because peace cannot dwell where resentment, fear, or bitterness dominate. True prosperity is not possible without inner healing, and healing cannot occur without moments of stillness where you face yourself honestly and allow grace to do its work. Cultivating inner stillness does not mean withdrawing permanently from the world or avoiding responsibilities. It means creating sacred pauses throughout your life where you step back, breathe deeply, and realign with what matters. This might be through meditation, prayer, journaling, mindful walking, or simply sitting in silence with no agenda. The form is less important than the intentionality. What matters is that you create moments where your mind is not bombarded, where your heart can exhale, and where your spirit can breathe freely. Even 5 minutes of intentional stillness each day can re-center your mind, regulate your emotions, and shift your perspective. It is in stillness that gratitude flourishes. When you are constantly in motion, rushing from one task to another, you rarely stop to appreciate what you already have. But when you pause, you notice the beauty in small things, the warmth of the sun, the sound of laughter, the gift of breath. Gratitude naturally flows from these observations, and gratitude is one of the strongest magnets for peace, wealth, and prosperity. A grateful heart attracts more to be grateful for because it recognizes abundance rather than lack. Stillness opens your eyes to abundance, while restlessness blinds you to it. The practice of cultivating inner stillness also strengthens resilience. Life will inevitably bring challenges, losses, and unexpected changes, but how you respond determines whether you crumble or rise. When your peace depends solely on external conditions, it is fragile and easily broken. But when your peace is rooted in inner stillness, you carry a calm center that cannot be easily shaken. This resilience allows you to navigate crises with clarity, to endure storms without losing hope, and to inspire others with your composure. It does not mean you are unaffected, but it means you are not consumed. This is the kind of inner wealth that sustains outer prosperity because it gives you the strength to keep building even when conditions are unfavorable. Inner stillness is also a powerful weapon against comparison and envy. In a digital age where everyone showcases the best version of their lives, it is easy to lose yourself in measuring your journey against others. This comparison creates unrest, dissatisfaction, and distraction. But when you cultivate stillness, you begin to hear your own path more clearly. You no longer chase validation or seek worth in external achievements because you are anchored in who you are and where you are going. Prosperity becomes personal, not defined by societal standards, but by alignment with your own purpose. Stillness helps you reclaim your individuality and walk confidently in your lane without being swayed by what everyone else is doing. Another dimension of cultivating inner stillness is its impact on relationships. When you are restless internally, you carry that energy into your interactions. Impatience, irritability, or the inability to truly listen. But when you are grounded in stillness, you bring presence into your connections with others. You listen more deeply, you respond with compassion, and you engage with authenticity. These qualities enrich your relationships, which are one of the greatest forms of prosperity. Wealth is meaningless without people to share it with, and peace is amplified when you are surrounded by harmony. Stillness teaches you to value presence over performance, depth over superficiality, and love over ego. In cultivating inner stillness, you are also training yourself to operate from intention rather than reaction. Most people live reactively, constantly responding to external triggers and circumstances without ever pausing to choose their response. This keeps them in a cycle of stress, frustration, and lack of fulfillment. But stillness creates a pause between stimulus and response, allowing you to act deliberately rather than react impulsively. That single pause can change the trajectory of your decisions, your relationships, and ultimately your life. In this way, stillness is not passive. It is active power disguised in quietness. Discipline is the quiet architect of every great life. While motivation often gets celebrated as the spark that drives people into action, it is discipline that sustains the fire long after the spark fades. Motivation is emotional. It rises and falls based on mood, environment, or inspiration. But discipline is a choice, a commitment, a decision to remain consistent regardless of how you feel in the moment. To honor discipline over motivation is to recognize that success, peace, wealth, and prosperity are not built in moments of excitement, but in the daily, ordinary decisions that compound into extraordinary outcomes. When you elevate discipline above motivation, you are choosing structure over impulse, long-term fulfillment over short-lived excitement, and true growth over fleeting desire. The reason discipline matters more than motivation is because human emotions are inherently inconsistent. One day you wake up full of energy, ready to take on the world, and the next day you feel drained and uninterested. If your actions depend solely on motivation, your life will be inconsistent and your progress scattered. You may start strong, but find it difficult to sustain momentum, leaving goals unfinished and dreams unrealized. Discipline, on the other hand, is independent of emotion. It is the system you put in place that says, even if I don't feel like it today. It does not rely on inspiration, it relies on commitment. This is why discipline produces mastery, because mastery is not the result of occasional bursts of energy, but of steady, repeated practice over time. When you look at the lives of people who embody peace, wealth, and prosperity, you find that their success is rarely the outcome of motivation alone. It is built on habits, routines, and principles that they follow consistently, whether or not they feel inspired. An athlete does not become great because they train only when they feel motivated. They become great because they train on the days when their body aches, when they would rather sleep in, when there is no cheering crowd. That commitment to discipline shapes them into someone who performs at excellence regardless of external conditions. The same applies to wealth creation, relationships, and spiritual growth. Discipline ensures that seeds are planted daily so that harvest is inevitable, even if the process feels mundane or slow. Discipline also has the power to protect you from distraction. In a world filled with endless options, noise, and competing demands for your attention, motivation can easily be hijacked. You may feel motivated one moment to pursue a dream, only to be swayed the next moment by a new opportunity or the pressure of others. Discipline anchors you. It creates a boundary that says, this is the path I have chosen, and I will remain faithful to it. By honoring discipline, you protect your vision from being fragmented, and you ensure that your energy is invested in what truly matters rather than scattered across distractions that bring no real fruit. Another dimension of honoring discipline over motivation is the way discipline builds resilience. Motivation thrives when conditions are favorable, but when difficulties arise, it quickly fades. Discipline, however, thrives in adversity because it teaches you how to push through discomfort. Every time you practice discipline, you strengthen your ability to endure. You prove to yourself that you are not limited by feelings or external challenges. This resilience becomes an invaluable resource because life is unpredictable and prosperity requires the ability to keep moving forward even when circumstances are not ideal. Discipline equips you to be steady, to be unshaken, and to keep building when others give up. Discipline is also a teacher of self-respect. Every time you keep a commitment to yourself, you reinforce the belief that you are trustworthy, that your word to yourself matters. Many people lose confidence not because they are incapable, but because they repeatedly break promises to themselves. They say they will start a project, wake up earlier, save money, or change a habit, but when feelings fade, they abandon the commitment. Over time, this erodes self-belief. Discipline reverses this pattern. Each disciplined action becomes evidence that you can rely on yourself, and this builds an unshakable confidence. True prosperity requires this inner trust because you cannot lead others or steward great resources if you do not first trust yourself. There is also an important relationship between discipline and freedom. Many see discipline as restrictive, as if it takes away spontaneity or joy. But in truth, discipline is the foundation of freedom. A disciplined financial life creates the freedom to live without debt and to invest in what matters. A disciplined health routine creates the freedom to enjoy vitality and longevity. A disciplined spiritual practice creates the freedom to live with clarity and peace. Without discipline, you are enslaved to impulses, circumstances, and distractions. With discipline, you gain mastery over your life. And mastery is the highest form of freedom. Honoring discipline over motivation also reshapes the way you approach time. Time is the most valuable resource, and yet it is often wasted because people act only when they feel inspired. Discipline respects time by ensuring that each day carries intentional action. It transforms ordinary days into building blocks of destiny. Wealth and prosperity do not arrive overnight. They are the result of consistent investment of time, energy, and focus. Discipline ensures that no day is wasted, even if progress seems invisible. Over weeks, months, and years, those small, consistent actions add up to results that motivation alone could never sustain. In the pursuit of peace, discipline is equally crucial. Peace is not found by accident. It is cultivated through disciplined choices about what you allow into your mind, your environment, and your spirit. It requires the discipline to step away from toxic conversations, the discipline to guard your thoughts, the discipline to create rhythms of rest and reflection. Motivation may inspire you to seek peace for a moment, but discipline ensures that peace becomes a lifestyle. When practiced daily, discipline creates an inner environment where peace thrives, even when external conditions are unstable. Discipline also builds credibility with others. When people observe that you are consistent, reliable, and committed, they are more likely to trust you, invest in you, and support your vision. Motivation may impress people temporarily, but discipline earns long-term respect. This is why leaders who embody discipline inspire loyalty, because others know they will not waver under pressure. Prosperity often flows toward those who can be trusted with responsibility, and trust is built on discipline. Whether in business, family, or community, the ability to consistently show up as promised makes you a person of value and influence. Another powerful aspect of discipline is its ability to shape identity. You are not defined by what you intend to do or what you feel inspired to pursue. You are defined by what you repeatedly do. Your habits form your character, and your character shapes your destiny. If you want to embody wealth, peace, and prosperity, then you must become the type of person whose daily actions align with those outcomes. Discipline bridges the gap between who you are now and who you desire to become. It transforms intentions into reality by training you into a new way of being. Over time, Discipline reshapes your identity so that success is no longer an occasional outcome, but a natural expression of who you are. It is also important to recognize that discipline is not rigid perfection, but flexible consistency. Some people avoid discipline because they equate it with harshness or lack of joy. But true discipline is not about punishing yourself. It is about guiding yourself with love toward your highest potential. It is about creating systems that support your goals while allowing grace for mistakes and adjustments. Discipline is sustainable when it is rooted in vision rather than fear. You practice it not because you are forcing yourself, but because you value your future enough to make sacrifices today. When approached this way, discipline becomes a form of self-love and empowerment rather than restriction. Discipline is also the foundation for creativity. While it may seem paradoxical, creativity flourishes not in chaos but in structure. When you establish disciplined routines, you create mental space for creativity to emerge. Writers, artists, and innovators often thrive not because they wait for motivation, but because they show up consistently to create, whether they feel inspired or not. The discipline of showing up opens the door for inspiration to arrive. Prosperity is often birthed in creativity, and creativity is sustained through discipline. In financial matters, discipline is non-negotiable. Motivation might inspire you to dream of wealth, but only discipline will make you save, invest, and steward resources wisely. Without discipline, money slips through your hands, no matter how much you earn. With discipline, even small resources grow into abundance. Financial peace and prosperity are not the result of luck, but of disciplined choices repeated over time. This includes the discipline of delayed gratification, the discipline of budgeting, and the discipline of giving generously while still managing responsibly. These practices may not always feel exciting, but they ensure stability and long-term increase. Spiritual prosperity is also impossible without discipline. It requires the discipline to spend time in prayer, to study, to reflect, and to live according to values that align with peace and integrity. Motivation may inspire you to seek a deeper connection, but discipline sustains that relationship over time. Spiritual disciplines anchor you in a sense of purpose that transcends circumstances, ensuring that your peace and prosperity are not tied to material gain alone, but rooted in a foundation that cannot be shaken. Generosity is often misunderstood as simply giving away money or possessions, but at its core, generosity is a posture of the heart and a practice of abundance. To practice generosity with wisdom means to go beyond impulsive acts of giving and instead cultivate a lifestyle where giving is intentional, thoughtful, and aligned with purpose. Generosity that flows without wisdom can sometimes harm rather than help, draining the giver without truly empowering the receiver. But when generosity is guided by discernment, it becomes a channel through which peace, wealth, and prosperity flow not only to others, but also back into your own life. It is one of the most powerful, timeless practices because it teaches you that abundance is not something you hoard. It is something you release with trust that it will return multiplied. Practicing generosity with wisdom begins with understanding the principle of stewardship. Everything we possess, time, resources, talents, and influence is entrusted to us, not simply for our own benefit, but to serve a larger purpose. To be generous is to recognize that what you hold in your hands is not meant to end with you, it is meant to flow through you. But wisdom reminds us that not every request, not every situation, and not every opportunity requires our yes. Without wisdom, generosity can lead to enabling harmful patterns, depleting ourselves to the point of exhaustion, or scattering resources in ways that bear no fruit. Wisdom asks the questions. Does this giving empower or create dependence? Does it align with my values and long-term vision? Does it come from a place of peace, or is it driven by guilt or pressure? When generosity and wisdom partner together, the result is sustainable impact that uplifts others while keeping you rooted in balance. Generosity with wisdom also requires you to understand the difference between sacrifice and self-neglect. True generosity will stretch you, but it should not strip you of the ability to thrive. If you give in ways that constantly leave you empty, resentful, or unstable, your generosity is not serving its higher purpose. Wisdom teaches you to give from overflow, not from depletion. This means that caring for your own well-being, your finances, and your peace is not selfish. It is essential so that your giving remains sustainable. You cannot pour into others if you are perpetually running dry. Prosperity is multiplied when you create healthy rhythms of replenishment and then give out of the abundance you have cultivated. Another aspect of practicing generosity with wisdom is learning that generosity is not limited to money. Some of the greatest gifts you can offer others are intangible. Your time, your presence, your encouragement, your knowledge, your forgiveness. Wisdom teaches you how to discern what form of generosity is most needed in each situation. Sometimes writing a check is the easiest option. But what a person truly needs is mentorship, a listening ear, or an introduction to an opportunity. At other times, financial generosity may be the most impactful seed to sow. When you open your heart to give in diverse ways, you expand your capacity to enrich lives beyond material means. This holistic view of generosity allows peace and prosperity to touch every area of human experience. Generosity also shifts your mindset from scarcity to abundance. Scarcity says, I must hold tightly to what I have because there may not be enough, while abundance says, I can release freely because more will come. When you give with wisdom, you affirm to yourself and to the universe that you live in a flow of abundance. This posture attracts more resources, more opportunities, and more favor because you are not clinging in fear, but trusting in provision. The paradox is that those who give often end up with more, not less, because generosity creates circulation. It keeps resources moving, blessings flowing, and doors opening. Wisdom ensures that this circulation is directed toward fertile ground rather than wasted on unfruitful soil. Generosity with wisdom is also a builder of relationships. When you give intentionally, you demonstrate care, integrity, and thoughtfulness. People remember not just that you gave, but how you gave, whether it was with respect, with discernment, and with genuine love. This builds trust and strengthens connections. Wealth and prosperity are not only about individual gain, they are magnified through community. Generosity creates bonds of reciprocity, loyalty, and mutual support. It establishes a culture where people look out for one another, and this collective prosperity is far more enduring than isolated success. However, wisdom ensures that generosity does not become manipulation or dependency. Instead, it fosters empowerment and partnership, lifting others in ways that preserve their dignity and agency. There is also a spiritual law connected to generosity. Across cultures and traditions, it is taught that what you sow, you reap, that those who give freely will themselves be enriched. Practicing generosity with wisdom aligns you with this law. Each act of giving becomes a seed planted, and wisdom ensures those seeds are planted in fertile soil. When you sow into people, causes, and opportunities that align with your values, you create harvests that return not only in material form, but in joy, peace, and fulfillment. Generosity without wisdom may scatter seeds randomly with little to show in return. But generosity guided by discernment ensures that your harvest is abundant and meaningful. Generosity also transforms your character. Every time you give, you train your heart to resist greed, selfishness, and fear. You remind yourself that you are not defined by what you accumulate, but by the impact you create. This transformation fosters peace because it liberates you from the constant pressure of comparison and competition. It fosters wealth because it attracts partnerships, opportunities, and goodwill. It fosters prosperity because it aligns your life with a flow of meaning and contribution. Yet wisdom is essential because it keeps generosity from becoming reckless or ego-driven. Generosity that seeks recognition or control is not true generosity, it is manipulation. Wisdom purifies your intentions so that your giving flows from love and purpose. Generosity with wisdom also requires boundaries. There will always be demands on your time, your energy, and your resources. Without boundaries, you can give in ways that drain your life force or leave you vulnerable to exploitation. Wisdom teaches you that saying no can sometimes be the most generous thing you do because it preserves your ability to say yes to the right opportunities. Boundaries ensure that your generosity remains authentic and not forced, that it serves genuine need rather than enabling unhealthy patterns. Practicing generosity with wisdom means learning to discern when giving uplifts and when it enables, when it empowers and when it hinders. Another important dimension is the discipline of planning your generosity. Spontaneous acts of kindness are beautiful, but wisdom also calls for intentionality. Just as you plan for your career, finances, or health, you can plan for generosity. This might mean setting aside a portion of income for giving, dedicating time each week to serve others, or choosing specific causes to support consistently. Planned generosity ensures that your giving is not only emotional but strategic, creating long-term impact. It also helps you remain consistent even when emotions waver, because you have already committed to making generosity a lifestyle rather than an occasional act. Practicing generosity with wisdom also enhances your perspective on wealth. It teaches you that wealth is not measured solely by accumulation, but by circulation. True prosperity is not how much you keep, but how much you are able to release and still flourish. Generosity demonstrates that you trust your resources to replenish, and wisdom ensures that you steward them well so that you can continue to give without fear. This shift in perspective transforms wealth from a static possession into a dynamic tool that creates ongoing impact. It allows you to experience the joy of prosperity not as something hoarded, but as something shared, multiplied, and remembered. Generosity with wisdom also models leadership. Leaders who are generous inspire loyalty, creativity, and excellence in those they serve. They create cultures of abundance where people feel valued and empowered. But wisdom is necessary so that generosity does not become favoritism, enabling or imbalance. Wise generosity creates fairness, sustainability, and empowerment, ensuring that the act of giving strengthens the collective rather than